live from the Sacramento Sprouts Farmers Market. We are almost an hour late this morning. I won't apologize. I warned you we were going to be late.
You just didn't know how late.
I didn't know how late. So, well, I'm here today with a special...
He's here with me. You knew it was happening.
Yes.
Some of you ran away.
I'm sure. Well, anyway, she's got a tie on this morning.
Well, I was in the mood.
So, no, she didn't tie one on. She has a tie on.
I've never done that. So.
She's never, ever,
Once I got to spins from 2 martinis, but that was at a rite of Saturn, I think, and I was blissed out. And I said, why do people ever do 2 martinis? It was stupid. Well,
I'm going to turn the camera around so you can tell us more about the time you got drunk.
You were not pleased because I had the spins.
You had the spins. That's
I had the spins.
There she is. Good morning, dear.
Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful sunny day. I've been weeding the last week, but actually it's not weeds, it's tree seedlings by the hundreds of thousands, and I've been actually crawling around on my knees and hands and knees, but worse than that, under rose bushes on my hands and elbows. So the last 2 days, I'm having difficulties in standing upright.
Yes, it's not pretty.
And walking fast, although toward the end of the day it gets a little better, but then I can't resist reading some more, so, because it's like potato chips, but I've already talked about that. Anyway, I'm not going to complain today because I've whined enough, and I don't, everybody has things. I don't have anything, and it's just, we're lucky we have veggies and other things too, so.
Well,
the weather's sunny, and it was 68 yesterday. Oh my God, the turtle was sitting with her flippers out in the sun for 3 hours. She was happy.
Me too.
Flipper? No, he wasn't. He had his no flippers. Anyway,
I'm going to talk a little bit about Israel Regardie, and because he died this time of year on March 8th or April 8th, or was it March 8th? But anyway, I'm going to talk about Regardie. What you met Regardie a couple times.
Yes.
Well, you met him at Mass too, so in L.A. What were your impressions of?
I thought he was an attractive older man and very charming.
Very good.
That's all I had.
And he got you liquored up too.
It was just one champagne cocktail. God, Lon.
So that's
which had nothing to do with the fact that I thought he was a charming older man.
Oh. So, and when you hear a recording of Regardie, you notice that he has a little bit of a speech thing.
Impediment, kind of. But he didn't seem to have any speech impediment.
Not in person.
So we don't know what that was.
It was...
an imposter.
Perhaps it was. Well, he was very good to us. Helen Parsons Smith delivered when our lodge first started. She visited him, and he gave her a box of his books. Books from his library, some of them with his book plate in. Yeah.
We've given those away already. Some of them are sold.
Sold, yeah. So, anyway, you're off to shop.
I'm off to shop. I got vegetable soup makings again because it seems like a good idea when cabbages look good.
Well said.
Lon's not too excited, but he'll be all right.
I like vegetable soup. You make great vegetable soup, and you put it in the freezer, and we have it 9 or 10 more times
I
over
wish,
the
but not that many.
2-year spread.
Oh, no, nothing stays in there for 2 years. Okay, that's enough.
Oh.
That's enough of goodness. Have a good week, and I hope your week is sunny too and nice. It's about time for all of us.
So we're expecting some rain this weekend.
They said winter's coming back on Thursday.
Yeah, but we're expecting a very generous gift of a Volkswagen van cover.
And that's another reason I'm not whining anymore, because I figured that was an excessively generous thing.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of feeling funny, you know. I'm very grateful though, because I hate taking that tarp off and putting that tarp on. It was a hassle, horrible, painful.
Well, it was a
Something
wonderful,
for an old woman to do.
thoughtful Facebook friend.
It was extremely, over the top generous.
Because
Anyway.
I ought to take a picture of the one you duct taped together with tarps and
with cords all over it. And
cords.
tying it to the wheels and the little, I don't know what those holes are at the bottom of the car.
Maybe that's where the leaks come from.
No, they're not holes. They're not those kind of holes. They're loops things. Anyway, I think you need to start your show.
Okay, I'm going to turn this around. There I am.
I'm going to try to stand upright and leave the car.
I won't film you trying to stand up
I may
straight.
be okay, because it's gotten warmer in here too, and warmth helps.
So, thank you, dear. Thank you. Okay, we're right in the middle of the prelude to the Holy Days of Thelema, coming up April 8th, 9th, and 10th. And there's really not much to report that Crowley wrote in his diaries about what he was doing besides...
He was probably just so stoned he couldn't write.
He was so stoned he couldn't write.
Actually, probably drunk.
Actually, his notes from that period are really non-existent, and the notes that we do have, he wrote many years later for the publication of the Equinox of the Gods. And so he was depending on, naturally, understandably, convenient memories of events that, took place, quite a few years earlier. And so we're left with kind of speculating about a lot of things, including whose vocal cords were vibrating to deliver the message from Aiwass and things like that. And I'm happy to say there is no super orthodox party line that anybody or any organization does or should dictate that this happened. The angels actually did appear in the sky to actual shepherds, okay, and things like that. But anyway, I wanted to talk about Regardie. Last year, this time, I sort of dedicated the show to things that I've written about Regardie. If you can hear the thunder of an oncoming truck, he's not coming toward me, but he is going to make some noise here. So I'm going to roll up my window. No, I don't have electric windows. Okay. This is a 1984 Volkswagen. And it's the newest car I've ever had. I'm not much of a car guy, but so far I've been lucky with this one. Anyway, one of the first books that I read about Aleister Crowley was Regardie's the legend of Aleister Crowley. It wasn't really Regardie. He wrote the foreword or the introduction to it. Okay, it was Stevenson. But the first full book that I wrote, and one of my guitar students, I believe, actually bought it for me, was The Eye in the Triangle. And I loved the title. It sounded so spooky, and I was sort of a young 26, 27-year-old Rosicrucian, wide-eyed Amorc member, studying BOTA lessons too. And I kept hearing about Aleister Crowley and reading things from Frederick Codd's QBL and things like that. Now, they're mentioning this Crowley guy. And The Eye in the Triangle was a biography by Israel Regardie. And many, 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 many years later, as a matter of fact, in 2017, when the good folks at New Falcon Publications were reissuing their edition of The Eye in the Triangle, they asked me to pen the foreword to it, which, to me was kind of a poignant, great honor. And I'm going to read part of that to you today. I know I've done it before over the years because it comes from the relatively new anthology of my introductions and forewords called Allow Me to Introduce. And this is what I had to say about The Eye in the Triangle. With your permission. And if I don't have your permission, just leave the computer on and go about your business, but just listen to me in the background. The Eye in the Triangle, Introduction to Dr. Israel Regardie's definitive work on Aleister Crowley, forward to the 2017 edition. The epigraph is from Regardie himself. Crowley once said that if a man wanted to begin the study of magic because he wished to evoke a demon to kill his enemy, that would be all right too. For the student would soon discover the hierarchical structure of the world of magic. That is to say, the demon in question could not be controlled or ordered until the student had made contact with the entity immediately superior. And this entity would only be beseeched to function in terms of his superior, and so on. Very shortly then, the student would be constrained to invoke in a direct line the God or spiritual force ruling over all such operations. In that case, he'd have to unite his consciousness with that of the God. By that time, so many transformations in consciousness would have taken place that the original malefic intent would have disappeared and been replaced by other more worthy and higher aspirations. That was a quote from Regardie, quoting Aleister Crowley. This is my introduction. I never met Aleister Crowley. He died 7 months and 11 days before I was born. No, I do not believe I am Aleister Crowley. I've never entertained the fantasy that I am or was Aleister Crowley. In fact, since the earliest childhood, I've been haunted by rather clear memory visions of who I probably was and in at least one previous life, and I assure you that none of these memories have anything to do with Aleister Crowley, or indeed any person of legendary or notable historical significance. Over the past 40 years, now it's a few years more than that, over the past 40 years, however, because of my dubious reputation as some kind of magical authority, I've been contacted by a fair number of individuals who've informed me with straight-faced earnestness that they are the living incarnations of Aleister Crowley. Perhaps you. Living incarnation of Aleister Crowley, the Beast 666, and that I must immediately write a book recognizing them as such. They proffer abundant evidence, Kabbalistic synchronicities, birth dates, addresses or telephone numbers, recurring dreams of orgies, and shopping receipts totaling $6.66. And I should add, I still receive lots of, or many, people claiming to be the Scarlet Woman, IWAS, the one to follow, other things from the Book of the Law, Crowned and Conquering Child. They don't all have to be Aleister Crowley. They can be Hurpar Krat. They can be second minister or vice minister of Hurpar Krat. I get a lot of them. And I'm not making fun of them too much, okay? Please don't think that I'm ridiculing anyone who has a self-identity with some kind of spiritual character. Something is going on there, okay? And I don't wish to belittle or be unkind about anybody's sincere identification with a saint or a god or an angel or even a literary character. So please, if I've hurt your feelings, I apologize. When I first, after all, I'm Isadora Duncan. No. But I'm married to her. Not seriously, okay. But I digress. When I first met Dr. Francis Israel Regardie in 1976, we discovered we both had quite a collection of such colorful contacts. We swapped a couple accounts and then resolved then and there it'd be great fun to pool our Crowley incarnation stories and letters in a book that we would title Lieber Nuts, N-U-T-Z, Lieber Nuts. We both were half serious about the project, and in the years that followed, he would occasionally call and send me out to investigate another neighborhood Crowley manifestation. Predictably, this whimsical project never manifested, and Regardie died in 1985, and with him, Lieber Nuts. When we were going through his effects, we did find a Lieber Nuts folder in his files, and the folder was empty. So that's that. Regardie also sent me on other errands. Indeed, he was the person that arranged for me to at least arrange and take part in the exorcism of a patient of one of his patients. Okay, I tell the whole story in My Life with the Spirits, and that's a long story. But that was in the years that Regardie and I were in closer contact. No matter what you may have read to the contrary on the internet, I was not Israel Regardie's magical apprentice, nor was I his formal student. I was never personally initiated by him into any kind of Golden Dawn or AA or OTO or anything. We were both D Malay. We found that out at our first meeting. I can, however, proudly and with no small measure of awe and humility claim him as one of my earliest and most influential magical mentors. He made himself available whenever I had specific questions about Magick and Crowley, and he was generous with his time, information, and opinions. Now, can you imagine the luxury of having Regardie at the other end of a phone when you started to read weird things about Crowley eating babies, about Crowley any number of outrageous things you hear about Crowley, the luxury of just picking up the phone and say, what was Crowley talking about when it seemed like he was confessing to killing a bunch of babies? And have this charming gentleman on the other end, sort of amused, explaining what it is he was actually talking about. Okay, what a privilege, what a luxury, what an honor it was to have that. I wasn't his student. I wasn't his chila. I had his phone number. Okay. Okay, where was I? I digress. He was also supportive of our OTO lodge in Newport Beach and donated duplicate books of his from his own substantial library and other magical trinkets. Before I met him, however, he was, in my mind at least, an unapproachable god. A mysterious, mythological character straight out of the distant legendary past, like Merlin, or John Dee, or Cagliostro, or Woodman and Westcott and Mathers and Crowley. In 1972, Constance gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. Are you watching, Jean Paul? And the DuQuettes were magically transformed from a young hippie couple to a family. It was also the year I abandoned a drug-energized decade of dangerously successful work as a musician and a recording artist, and pretentiously began my holy grail quest for respectability and stability. Almost 50 years later, I must sadly confess I'm still failing spectacularly in this quest. However, during that youthful transitional period, I did discover something even more precious than the poisonous anesthesia of American middle-class predictability. I found Magick and the works of Edward Alexander Crowley. As any magician will tell you, magic isn't anything like most people think it is. In fact, magic isn't anything like anyone thinks it is. Magic stops being magic when someone can explain it to you. And magic stops being magic when you think you can explain it to others. It's a real paradox. And it's supposed to be a paradox. It's all very Zen. Still, for some of us, we are irresistibly drawn to the art form of magic, and make no mistake, magic is a most colorful and powerful spiritual art form. Not because we believe it's the only path to enlightenment, or even that it's a good one, but because something magically is already bubbling away inside us, and it's telling us it's our path. In 1928, a 20-year-old British-born American student, Francis Israel Regardie, later he changed it to Regardie, was snared by this magic attraction and bravely abandoned his privileged family home in Washington, D.C., and set sail for Paris to become a live-in disciple of the notorious Aleister Crowley, the self-proclaimed world teacher and prophet of a new aeon. As the reader will soon discover, The Eye in the Triangle is Regardie's extended commentary on his years with the great beast and the life and works of his infamous former employer. Moreover, the book is an attempt at an insightful, if not completely objective, analysis of the psychological processes that cause Crowley to tick so peculiarly. At the same time, Regardie's observation might also give us some insight as to what might have been making Regardie tick so peculiarly. You may find much in The Eye in the Triangle that is dated by today's psychological sophisticated standards. Jung is no longer so new and daring, and I should have added Reich. And as far as sexual matters go, there's very little today that unsettles us in the least. But in the mid-1970s, when I first read The Eye in the Triangle, it was the only proper biography of Crowley available. John Simon's 1951 laughably bad The Great Beast, and Crowley's own Confessions of Aleister Crowley, wonderful but hardly complete, year-wise anyway, or objective, were pretty much the only things I could get my hands on. Things are mercifully better for students today, and Dr. Richard Kaczynski's Perdurabo, The Life of Aleister Crowley, will likely remain the most complete, accurate, and objective Crowley biography for many years to come. But there's also now several others that have been published since I wrote this, and they too are excellent. But as far as a comprehensive biography, Kaczynski's is still, Perdurabo is still the creme de la creme. Anyway, as an apologist for Crowley, Regardie must be given high marks for rising above the cruel, small, and nasty injuries Crowley inflicted upon him as a young man in the years following their association. Crowley could be really small, nasty. I believe it was not easy for him to do this, but I don't believe he did it as some form of 12-step forgiveness gesture to make himself feel better in his final years. Rather, I simply believe he came to a place in his life where he could put the entire wonderful and painful experience in perspective. He recognized that the brilliance of Crowley's genius transcended and eclipsed his myriad and serious human flaws. He recognized it was his duty to mankind, his duty to the advancement of human thought, to allow the world to see the blazing sun of Crowley's genius and the soul-liberating message he tried to deliver. Obviously, I'm a very big admirer of Crowley and his work, and this is due in large part to Dr. Regardie and his various works on the subject of magic. I sing Crowley's praises a lot. I write books that are extended commentaries on Crowley's works. He constantly amazes and inspires me. He's my holy prophet. On the other hand, in reading Crowley, I'll run across something he said, or worse, something he, during his 72 years of incredible years, that still shocks me, disgusts me, outrages me. I know for certain that I would not have liked Aleister Crowley on a personal level. We would not have gotten on. In that respect, I'm glad he's dead. But Crowley was a genius. Have you ever been or unlucky enough to spend time in close proximity to a real, over-the-top, bona fide genius for any length of time? An artist, a writer, a filmmaker, a dancer, a mathematician? I have. It's hard. It's frustrating. Sometimes it's even dangerous. Not because the genius is trying to be rude or thoughtless or arrogant. To we mortals, it may seem like the genius is behaving like an insane jerk. But the genius, more often than not, is completely oblivious or unconcerned to the effects he or she has on others. It's because the art of the genius is the soul of the genius. The body, the mind, the personality, the character, the appetites, the dreams, the hopes, the fears are only servants to their art. And God help anyone or anything that gets in the way of the genius and his or her art. Crowley was a genius. And his body of work is a masterpiece, just as real a masterpiece as Beethoven's symphonies, or a painting by Da Vinci, or a work by Michelangelo. It's true, Crowley had many monstrous shortcomings, but so did Beethoven and Da Vinci and Michelangelo. They were all mad as hatters. They still created immortal, consciousness-elevating works. And through their genius, they manifested truth. And truth is bigger than any fragile and illusionary personality. It took Regardie many years to put behind him the stings of personal injuries he suffered from Crowley's pen point. But he eventually did. And we're all enriched by his act of posthumous magnanimity. The image of the eye in the triangle is, of course, it has many magical and mystical connotations. It's certainly a profound and appropriate title for Regardie's treatment of the life and works of Aleister Crowley. I believe, however, that it also represents the opening of Regardie's own eye to the spiritual significance of Crowley's contribution to the evolution of human consciousness, and to the importance of his own vital role and responsibility in presenting it to the world. Okay, I finish off that that introduction with sort of a goofy, satirical letter, Israel Regardie in Memoriam. It was a satire of all of the eulogies people rushed to get published after Regardie died. Not so much to accurately and respectfully praise how great Regardie was, but how much Regardie loved them. So I have no stories to that effect. Anyway, that's it for today. I see that my screen here on my phone has darkened up. I hope I'm still broadcasting here. But anyway, until tomorrow, and as we draw closer to the April 8th, 9th, and 10th, and the culmination of the High Holy Days of Thelema, we'll probably be turning our attention to the events of 1904 in Cairo, Egypt, for the next few days. Anyway, sorry we're almost an hour late today, but it is Parking Lot Tuesday. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.